did you go to school?
And here's your...
What do you think of what's going on right now, mate?
These evil little invisible parasites.
Satan-worshipping Freemason moron.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're not run by factions.
Get the fuck out of camera!
There are much more powerful international forces in play.
Is this pink guy? Is this what pink guy is? I don't fucking know what's happening.
Please go outside and look at the moon quickly.
It's been crazy, guys, but guess what? It's how it is, mate.
Mate, because I want to do you slowly.
But I ain't spending any time on it.
Welcome to the Conditional Release Program, a podcast that delves into the netherworld of cults, crims and con artists. I'm Jack the Insider, otherwise known as Peter Hoisted for tax purposes.
And I'm Joel Hill, and this week we are looking at aliens from beyond the moon. And to be quite honest, I think it's a good idea, because Earth is a bit fucked at the moment. I think we're on the precipice of basically killing each other after, of course, a quick check of the genitals, just to check that everything is what it says it is. And maybe like a 10-question survey on, whether the Holocaust happened. That's, that's the basis of whether you live or die.
It is a bit like that. As Eric Idle once sang, Joel, pray that there's intelligent life somewhere up in space because there's bugger all down here on Earth.
Jesus. And that was before social media. Fuck me. And, of course, we also have stories of cook units sock puppeting themselves to say what great guys they are. Oh, they're so smart. And they were right all along.
Oh, yeah. Gee whiz. I knew I was right. It seems every cooker wants to do a well done, Angus. After all, it works so well for him.
One of the funniest moments in Australian political history. It's just great. But it's when they come at the late, great Shane Warne, we say thus far and no motherfucking further.
We're not having it.
No.
Leave our Warnie to rest in peace, cookers. And Channel 9, with what appears to be the grossest, most exploitative miniseries on the life of the great man coming soon to be ignored by all Australians, hopefully, is another case. But we'll leave that out for the moment.
Yes, exactly. And that is also time for another timely reminder that while this show is free, technically, it does not come without a cost, spiritually and financially.
It'd be all right if we were communists, but we're not, and never will be.
It's a good argument for universal basic income. So if you want to support the show and, of course, our naked, sort of fervent capitalism, you can by dropping us a few dollars on our Patreon.
Simply go to www.patreon.com/the Conditional Release Program, and for as little as $5 a month, you can have access to all sorts of behind-the-paywall content that cheapskates can't see.
Yeah, we put little teasers in there to fuck with you. Yeah, that's a part of the sales pitch. Yeah. We would appreciate your help in keeping the show running, though, and keeping the show running to the highest journalistic standards, which, means I have actual time to fucking do this. But look, I will say as a side note, I know what you're all thinking. I may not have paid for this bloody delicious CB MIDI, which is a fantastic, great mid-strength and only 100 calories, but unfortunately, I do also have to eat. I mean, there's no carbs in this. So how am I getting my energy? This is ridiculous. And also my power bill just doubled, which sucks.
and when it comes to high journalistic standards, Joel, it's now time for Aliens from Beyond the Moon in the Conditional Release Programs of Weekly News. The battle continues. Space creatures from the planet Zob have lobbed. They're everywhere, like Russians in Monaco. The question is, are they lovable and benign like E.T., or are they bite-your-face-off monsters in Alien?
Yeah, I'm going with the latter. But look, the big alien conspiracy push has been driven in part by Ross Coulthart, a investigative journalist of some note. He used to work at 60 minutes, because, they fly around the world for free. Yeah,
Same.
Yeah. And he's done some genuinely excellent work, to, jokes aside, in his quite long career, most recently exposing international privacy advocate Simon Davies as a raging child sex offender.
He was awful.
Yeah, actual pedo, not just, made up in a building. Davies was recently convicted for historical sexual assaults in and around a homeless centre for kids in Sydney's King's Cross. Fuck you. So in November 2022, you'll all like to hear that Davies was sentenced to 10 years in prison, where I hope he's beaten senseless and has a very bad time and all his food is cold.
Deserves every day of it. But Coulthart has had other more recent fixations relating to UFOs, now more commonly called UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. Sometimes the A in aerial is replaced with the A in anomalous.
Boring.
Unidentified anomalous phenomena. That's the way NASA refers to them.
Doesn't roll off the tongue. So look, long ago on the Conditional Release Program, we did UAPs. It's episode 36. And I actually listened to it the other day because I knew we were going to cover this. And it's not bad. I was happy with it. It's very strange listening to yourself. But we also looked at it because UAPs have become a bit of a sort of push from the fringe right again. And cooker groups more particularly. I mean, we should do another one of these because there is momentum being built up. There's something going on.
Something is building. There's no doubt. Now, Coulthart, whose Twitter feed is there for all to see, has come to the conclusion that not only are UAPs here, but that material discovered on one UAP shot down was carrying, and I quote, non-human technology of, quoting again, exotic origin. Is that the South Pacific? I thought that was always the South Pacific. Anyway.
Okay, there might be some like water on the moon or some shit, but like, is it really exotic? You know, are there deck chairs
you don't
on the
know
moon?
Unless you've been there. Anyway, there's even talk of dead alien critters being dissected in forensic laboratories, just like in the films.
Yeah, those films. I've seen those films. They're good films. So, look, it's a huge conspiracy of thoughts. You know, like the Pentagon knows all about it, but has withheld it from the POTUS and the Congress, preferring to, of course, exploit the non-human technology for the green machine.
The green machine.
The mean green machine, the vast US military-industrial complex, who are, of course, all in on it. Now, I'm going to go on I'm going on a side note here and saying that in theory this is very reasonable because as you actually said in episode 36, which I listened to recently, there is no fucking way Trump would keep his mouth shut if he knew aliens existed. He would immediately tweet it.
Oh, well.
He just fucking would. You know, he'd just have his fingers on there and they'd be like, sir, put down the phone. And Biden, I mean, like, he's probably going to forget as soon as you said it.
He's forgotten.
Yeah, he's just forgotten. He's like, oh, what? Sorry, what? Aliens? Oh, yeah, I've seen that movie. So, like, you know, and that's the sequel anyway, so whatever. So, the thing here, though, okay, so jokes aside, once you mention the military-industrial complex, once you get into the green machine, cookers are going to lap it up because it taps into that inherent distrust of government they've formed.
It's just indeed.
It's part of their personality now.
The theory goes that the Pentagon knocks UAPs out of the air, then pinches their death rays, has a good rummage around and knocks off a bit of kit, which will give them the edge over the Chinese. Now, Coulthart's tweets pose the question that if this is known to the Americans, and what they suggest is that it's known to the Pentagon, but they've actually withheld that information from the president and the Congress, that's the conspiracy. Anyway, Coulthart's tweets pose the question that if this is known to the Americans and the Canadians, then Australia must know about it under the terms of the Five Eyes Agreement. The Five Eyes, of course, equals the US, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and China. No. What are you doing in here, China? You're supposed to be the UK.
It's the most Orcuswood situation ever. You know, all in favour say aye. Aye. Yeah. So look, Coulthart's Twitter feed contains comments from followers, you know, of this sort of like, you know, try and keep up, Ross, mate.
Yeah, mate, come on,
you know, aliens walk among us, mate. Have you noticed? Have you seen Guru? That guy's a fucking alien for sure.
Yeah. Pretty sure he could be, yeah.
So it's and this is great. Like, you know, you see this in a lot of situations where a journo jumps into something and a whole bunch of cookers will be like, oh, bro, where have you been? So they believe that he's basically been slow off the mark on this one. He's there being like, I found out all this information. And they're like,
come on, Ross.
Yesterday's news,
Get with
mate.
the ET program, man. It's happening, Ross. It's happening.
Never pander to conspiracy theorists. They will never satisfy whatever you're looking for. Anyway.
And this week, Coulthart linked to a video from The Hill, a fairly respectable media organisation who put out a video show or a video channel called Rising. It's for the kids, Joel.
Yeah.
News for the kids. What a tremendous idea. It's about time, quite frankly, that kids start getting some news from somewhere else but fucking TikTok.
Yes, TikTok is bad and should be banned. But look, we had a News for the Kids thing back in the day. You probably weren't there for this. It's called BTN, Behind the News. And they sort of forced us to write. Oh, it was great. I had to write these reports in primary school. And a while ago, I don't know if I've got access to these books anymore. Unfortunately, I gave my mother and she's gone nuts. But basically, I looked at the BTN books. And even then, I was a massive left-wing Labor hack. My parents clearly programmed me like this. It was fucking hilarious. Like, little 10-year-old socialist was like, no, this is bullshit. And, you know, Labor's better and Liberals are bad. I'm like, oh, man, fucking indoctrinated. Anyway, I thought it was pretty funny.
Well, look, there are a lot of media orgs who've tried to tap into that market. And it is, you know, largely untapped. Yeah. So it's the sort of Facebook / TikTok / Instagram and sort of generation millennials, obviously 20-somethings. I noticed the Australian tried to do it without much success at all. You've got pedestrian and junkie and those sorts of groups who do it reasonably well, but essentially we've got a group of people who don't look at a lot of news.
No, vulnerable minds.
So there's always someone trying to tap into it. So The Hill has done this too and called this channel Rising, where you have quite young news presenter and she'll interview reporters on particular topics and they'll cut to a journalist who's equally young and just barely 20.
Well, we have something similar with Leo Puglisi on, or Puggo as he's known, on with the 6 News thing. But kids don't watch that. Adults watch it. I mean, 'cause he's just like a reasonably good journo. He's just like tiny and teenage and can't vote or drink. He should be drinking though.
It's just a tough thing. But that's media organisations. I thought I'd check the reports. This particular report that Coulthart linked to, the Hill report of a particular sighting, and just check it out, subject to a bit of journalistic rigour, and see if it salutes at the ledger.
Yeah, well, so this Rising situation, they put up a video story of reports of an F-16 dogfight with a UAP over Bad Axe, which is a cool name. But it's actually just
a name for a city. It's actually a city?
Yeah, it's a city, with 3,000 people, because America has a lot of places that they call cities that are actually really sparse and tiny in Huron County, Michigan.
Yeah, that's on the eastern tip of Michigan. Michigan has 2 humps. And it is in the first and small hump on the east side, and probably about 20k from Lake Michigan.
It's quite often that if you've got 2 humps, one of them will be smaller or bigger than the other. That is a common trait. That's a biology joke.
Well, the other one is enormous. Michigan is a huge state, but
unfortunately, that kind of imbalance can happen.
Is where Bad Axe is. Just a fantastic name.
Which is great. Americans have some really good shit like that. I love it. So it could be a Native American thing. I don't know, but they're very funny. Anyway, look, the UAP was described as a silver disc, predictable, that easily outmaneuvered the F-16s, which are, I guess, a pretty good fighter plane. I don't really know.
Rising linked to reports from the Huron Daily Tribune, which claimed multiple witnesses saw the dogfight, but only quoted one.
Oh.
According to the Huron Daily Tribune...
Christopher Bilby of Ulbrey.
Ubley is about 15 clicks south of Bad Axe. Very close to Bad Axe. Okay. Not quite Bad Axe.
So Christopher Bilby from Ubley said that as the military jet circled the sky overhead, he spotted a white/metallic disc that was difficult to see because of sunlight reflecting off the object. Bilby said the object seemed to be hiding from the jets by flying in front of the sun. Okay.
They're shrewd, those aliens.
Interesting strategy, yeah. The UAP was extremely fast, Bilby said. It was capable of overtaking and outmaneuvering the fighter jets with extreme ease. Okay. It would overtake a jet, stop suddenly, and seem to turn toward the incoming jet, like spin in their direction without moving. Okay. The jet fired anti-missile flares.
Wow. Just taunting them.
Just taunting them, yeah.
Just taunting them, yeah.
Yeah, well, aliens are known for their taunting. So the jet fired anti-missile flares like it was under direct attack, and Bilby stated in his witness account that the jet fired anti-missile flares like it was under direct attack, Bilby stated in his witness account. And according to the report, the second fighter jet also fired its flares as the object continued to spin. Okay.
Yeah, I've been on that many drugs, Joel. Have you? You must have been on that many drugs at some particular time where you've just looked up at the sky and gone, oh, good Lord, what the hell have I just seen there? It looks to me like an extremely fast UAP.
I'm just going to say right now that it actually takes a lot of drugs to hallucinate, and you really have to push the boundaries out there. The most profound hallucination outside of ayahuasca was when I took some acid and had a nitrous oxide balloon on a deck where I saw clouds part, and then an alphabet soup of letters went up in a cloud-like storm that went into a funnel. That's as close as I got. But look, that's pretty close to EAP. I could have dreamed that up, but it would have lasted about a minute.
Chris might have had a similar experience on the Nangs, Joe. Just might have been on the Nangs.
I would say he was on the Nangs. Yeah, on the Nangs and on the acid, and that could easily happen, because I must say, that alphabet, that was going into that fucking funnel. It was real weird. Anyway.
There you go.
I have taken some drugs. I can no longer be elected to Parliament. So Bilby, who said he was a military veteran who had been stationed with the 304th Expeditionary Signal Battalion in South Korea, added he attempted to take cell phone footage of the incident, but glare and the altitude of the planes made it difficult.
Damn.
So
that would have been proof.
Yeah, it would have been.
No, he wasn't able to do it. What a shame.
It always seemed to be unable to take footage. And when they do, it seems to always be grainy and very low resolution. It's a real shame. Yeah, I imagine if I took a video of the clouds that I saw funneling into an alphabet nightmare, I wouldn't have got much from that either. Anyway, the UAP witness reports, including the quotes, don't come from the Huron County Tribune. They actually come from a non-profit, non-governmental organization named the National UFO Reporting Center. The plot thickens.
National UFO Reporting Center is just one of a number of indie reporting groups in the US, including the largest, MUFON, MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network.
What a great name.
Now, the National UFO Reporting Center was founded in 1974. Its center director is Peter Davenport, who has held the position since 1994, and in that time claims to have had multiple UAP sightings. This is from his bio.
Cool. So Peter has had an active interest in the UFO phenomenon from his early boyhood. May explain the sightings. He experienced his first UFO sighting over the St. Louis Municipal Airport in the summer of 1954.
It was probably a plane.
I fucking know. I was going to say that. I was like, don't be too much of a smart ass because you tried to do a straight read. But I'm like, it's a plane, dickhead. You're a child. Fuck. Anyway. And he investigated his first UFO case during the summer of 1965 in Exeter, New Hampshire. He's also been witness to several subsequent anomalous events.
Several?
Yes, several. Anomalous too. That's a lot. Possibly UFO related, including a dramatic sighting over Baja California in February 1990.
Ooh.
That was actually in our episode as well.
Dramatic.
There was a dramatic sighting over Baja California. And several nighttime sightings over Washington State.
Several again.
During 1992, yeah. You're not going to write these things down. You're busy watching them.
That's right.
You know, it's ridiculous. You didn't have Google Maps timeline back then. It was very difficult. Peter received his undergraduate education at Stanford University in California. Not bad. Where he earned bachelor's degrees in both Russian and biology. Interesting choices. As well as a translator's certificate in Russian translation. Got to make money somehow. His graduate education was completed at the University of Washington, Seattle, where he earned an MS degree in the genetics and biochemistry of fish from the College of Fisheries. Okay. Interesting. As well as an MBA degree in finance and international business from the Graduate School of Business.
That's what the bio says. Yeah, there are lots of universities that have faculties called Graduate School for Business. A couple in Australia, actually. Yeah. And including Harvard. Yeah. Well, sort of. Anyway, it's not quite clear which one Mr. Davenport attended, which I'm sure is just an oversight.
Yes. Oh, no one ever lies about their qualifications ever. But let's face it, when it comes to these sort of things, there are some very, very fishy schools out there. What? The School of Business?
Well, he was a College of Fisheries.
Well,
so
College of Fisheries.
Expected to be fishy. Yeah.
It's a fish of colleges. I mean, what the fuck? Anyway, so yeah, it just sounds
his bio states he has been witness to one sighting as a child and then several subsequent anomalous events. Why several, Joel? You'd think a UAP sighting would be the sort of thing you'd put a specific number on. Oh, that's my fourth, that's my fifth, that's my sixth. Oh, no, it's just seven.
And of course, if you've seen, say, 100 of them where you start getting foggy on the numbers because it's just been so many of them, wouldn't you think that maybe others were having the same experience? You know, if it's so common.
Here's the thing, and you can make of this what you will, Joel, but you wouldn't believe it. But this year is the National UFO Reporting Center's 50th anniversary.
Hey!
Happy birthday to you.
Exactly.
Terrific work. Well done, everyone. It's been a largely thankless task for the last 50 years. And MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network I mentioned before, is a larger group with 4,000 active members in 43 countries. It was founded in 1969, so it's already had its 50th anniversary of cataloguing drunks on the walk home, mistaking streetlights for the alien mothership.
Yep. And look, we cannot let MUFON go on without a mention of a 2018 Newsweek report citing evidence of, quote, anti-immigrant, anti-trans, and anti-Muslim sentiments.
Hello.
This was before anti-trans was cool, but while anti-Muslim was still cool before it became based because of the misogyny and whatnot.
No, they're ahead of their time. Yeah.
This included MUFON donor and noted fruitcake Judy Zebra J.Z. Knight.
Oh, she's a beauty.
And former MUFON state director for Pennsylvania, John Ventura, both of whom have publicly expressed racist and or anti-Semitic views and are described in the article as high-tier inner circle donors to MUFON.
Yeah, Judy Zebra Knight's a real... She's just kind of like Shirley MacLaine nutter. You know, she actually thinks she communicates directly with a particular alien, not just aliens.
Oh, she's got a mate.
Any old alien. But this guy's, you know, a prince of some planet somewhere, and she's sort of become this sort of a sage, self-appointed sage.
Self-appointed is important to put there, yes.
She babbles with aliens. It's Ramtha she talks to, who's kind of like somewhere between a warrior and a god from a distant planet.
It's a bit sus that it does sound like a Hindu god, because I'm like, mate, like, look, do aliens really have basic...
They're just going to make that up.
Yeah.
They're just going to make that up. Anyway, John Vetra, he's a failed Republican candidate. He ran for governor of Pennsylvania in 2018 for the Republican Party, just in case you were wondering, and got, you know, single-digit percentiles of the vote. And I think there were issues about him actually nominating. And so what we do see here with MUFON, you know, I mean, we're not suggesting that MUFON is anti-immigrant, anti-trans, and anti-Muslim.
Well,
what we're saying is that their major donors, or two of their major donors, are, and if MUFON had any sense of ethics, what they would do is say, we won't accept your donation.
Yeah, okay. That checks out. That makes a
don't.
lot of sense. Yeah, and that's very naughty. Look, I will put a very small side note here, is that flat Earth and a lot of these, like, sort of, there is something that's known, we don't know about it because of cover-up. That tends to be the idea of holding the truth away from people to make sure their minds don't explode, because if that happens, the status quo will be interrupted. And who's benefiting from the status quo? The Jews. So that's where the anti-Semitism comes in, because it's the Jews that are stopping the truth from coming out, because otherwise it'd stop all their banking and making money and eating gold-plated pretzels or whatever it is the Jews are meant to be doing, because I don't really understand it. But yes.
Yeah, look, this UFO stuff has got all the hallmarks, and we haven't had a deep dive into it yet, but it's certainly got all the hallmarks of a psyop.
Oh, fuck yeah. All right, reeks it.
Designed to trigger people. Really, it's sort of predating on people on that basis of this distrust or mistrust of government. It's actually distrust.
Yeah.
And that's the starting point.
Yeah.
And it's all around, you know, the US military industrial complex, as you say, major trigger for cookers.
Yeah.
So this is coming.
Yeah.
Folks, we think this is actually coming.
Anything that destabilizes trust in institutions and government really does fulfill the goals of what I would vaguely call enemy states. Countries like Russia, China as well, the Saudis, they're all trying to make sure that everyone in the West hates their government, doesn't trust them, and then, you know, they look over to Russia and they think, oh, but you guys got the right idea, don't you? So, you know, it's it wouldn't surprise me if it was part of an elaborate psyop. But yes, carrying on, both the National UFO Reporting Center and MUFON claim to receive about 1,000 sightings a month, which is a lot. That sounds like a lot. And in that 50 years or more, nothing has really happened since.
No one sent it. No aliens landing. No death rays coming from the skies. Nothing like that.
Yeah, it hasn't really. Yeah.
Yeah. Look. The so-called sighting around Bad Axe was actually dismissed by local police, who said, "No, we got no reports. No reports of UFOs, say, / UAPs in the area at the time." That's another really key thing.
Yeah, okay.
And of course, what we're dealing with here is, and we've gone up the scale, we've gone from the top of the scale down, and this is how misinformation works. It's a really important thing to understand. So first thing, this was covered by The Hill, which is, as I say, a legitimate news organisation and with a fairly good reputation.
They exist, yes.
And then we get down to the local newspaper, the Huron newspaper.
Yeah.
And what do we get from them? And people might think, oh, this is actual reporting on the ground, but no. What they've done is go through the National UFO Reporting Centre's reports, seen one that's in their area where they operate, in Huron County, and says, oh, here we go, bang. And then they use the quote from Mr. Christopher Bilbrey of Ubly, who almost certainly exists, but they use the quote that he has provided to the UFO Reporting Centre.
Yeah.
And that's how that's worked. And so that way, if we look at it from that way up, it's gone all the way to The Hill, who on their YouTube channel have 1.34 million viewers.
Yep. It's been happening recently with something later on about Shane Warne that we'll get to, but lots of syndication of something that appears legitimate on face value if you don't Google any of it. And it's just been syndicated all over the internet, spreading lies and filth about one of our favourite people, and I'm still
We'll get to that in a
fuming
minute.
about it. Anyway, yes, we'll get to it in a minute.
The majority of the sightings are in North America, in Canada, in places like Bad Axe, Michigan. Now, eastern Michigan is bound to be lovely this time of year, but why are they ass deep in UAP sightings while in eastern Australia I haven't seen a single one?
The drugs are better.
What's wrong with us aliens? What's wrong with Australia?
Fucking A, where the bloody
We've got
are
some of the best beaches in the world. We've got
right.
the footy.
That's right.
Kylie Minogue.
That's right.
Get down here, land somewhere in South Australia. That's my tip. Where no one goes, hang out, take your space drugs and have a bloody good time.
Best place to take drugs.
Just, leave some of the space drugs for
Well,
us.
yes.
And if you could figure out a way of making Queenslanders rational, please let us know.
Yeah, that being said, last
That'll
election.
be the invitation I'll be sending out.
Yeah.
Former 60-Minute man Ross Coulthart has been getting very excited on other alien stuff because there is now a whistleblower who's going to bust this whole filthy business to pieces. David Charles Grush.
Oh, dear. Okay, so let's have a look at Grush. Grush is 36 years young. He is a decorated former combat officer in Afghanistan. Not a Christmas tree. They are war medals, I believe. He's a veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, which has intelligence in the title, so you think he's quite clever, and the National Reconnaissance. I see that word, and all I can see is just
Start again.
crepes. And the National Reconnaissance Office, NRO. He served as the Reconnaissance Officer's representative to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force from 2019 to 2021. From late 2021 to July 2022, he was the NGA's co-lead for UAP analysis and its representative to the task force. So he's in there. He's fist deep.
Oh, yeah.
Elbow
He's
deep.
definitely in
And he's
there.
decorated.
And because he's now been called a whistleblower,
Yeah.
that has a sort of ring of truth about it. And Grush has claimed the Pentagon, the DOD, the Green Machine, has more than half a dozen alien spacecraft stashed away and that aliens themselves are now walking among us. Well, not walking, more lying down on stainless steel gurneys being sliced up. Pentagon might already have a cure for cancer, but it isn't sharing with us. The bastards.
Textbook military complex, the worst. They're med beds. There's med beds. We just don't have them. Queen Romana does, though. Anyway, it is getting very exciting, and the cookers are muttering. They are a little bit carried away, but they're easily carried away.
At times like these, it's worth remembering that we live on a planet that orbits a star, one of 300 billion stars in the galaxy we call the Milky Way, and that galaxy, our galaxy, is one of 2 trillion in the universe. So don't worry, there's plenty of parking for the ETs.
Okay, that does sound very vast, but not to put the kibosh and all this and be a bit of a dick, Jack, but don't we have enormous radio telescopes around the entire globe, pinging to basically all corners of this vast universe with all this parking, to measure radio waves and basically thus signs of advanced civilizations? I mean, if they're going to have crafts, they're going to have radios, right? I mean, that's like standard on an old fucking car. And to date, nothing. Not a blip, not an electronic fart has come down the line. A bit sus.
Yeah, true enough, Joel, but that might just be that the aliens don't have the radio on.
Oh, it is pretty shit. Kyle Sanderland's
You know,
gross.
they had a tune to Triple M, and then they got their icy cold cans of Coke and gave it a
That's
flick.
it. Yeah, they realised they weren't tradies and they changed the channel.
Or maybe they, made their own mixtapes for the trip,
Plausible.
Or maybe they don't have radio and just leapfrog straight from magazines to television.
That's embarrassing. Come on, guys. Get your act together. Radio is great for a bit, I guess. Fiddlers on radio. That's good.
It's all a deep, dark conspiracy, of course, but if the Bad Axe sighting has anything to go by with a story of an innocent alien spacecraft go about its business enjoying the sun in Michigan's summertime, only to be fired on by Americans flying around in F-16s, it is a further reminder that man's worst enemy is, in fact, man.
Yes. Doing sick burnouts in the sky.
Cue some ominous music on that, Joel, and
Yes.
let's move on.
It has been such an exhausting few weeks where it constantly feels like the bad guys are winning, just, events are being cancelled, and I'm just tired. This is mostly shaped by the time I spent on Twitter, which I recently decided to give a rest. Because you see, Elon Musk's Twitter is a place where absolute fuckknuckles are being elevated to the top of the discourse because they paid Elon $8. And I ideologically agree with him. I'm actually search banned on there for reasons, I guess, probably for saying Elon's a cunt over and over and over again on his platform. At its core, it feels that Musk is trying to basically increase time spent on his platform, which would plausibly translate into more profit per user, more eyeballs, more time spent, more profit, more ads. This works. And this is being achieved by pitting the users against each other and turning what used to be this sort of social media town square for political conversation into a social media culture war death gauntlet full of cunts.
It's a good, it's a good little metaphor.
It's fucking tiring, and it's really far from reality. I mean, like, you walk outside and no one. It's not happening. It's not. No. So this kind of conflict, it just keeps people posting. So as far as brazen capitalism goes, to increase the value of Twitter, it's not the worst strategy, to be honest.
Look, media reported today that eSafety Commissioner Ms. Inman Grant issued Twitter with a please explain notice today, citing that about 1/3 of the complaints her agency receives about online hate involve content on Twitter. 1/3.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Out of all the social media, we got 1/3 from Twitter. And she noted a surge in harmful posts since the Tesla chief bought the platform last year.
Not a coincidence.
Twitter has 28 days to comply with the please explain notice or face fines of almost $700,000 for every day it misses the deadline.
Good. He won't fucking pay them. He's an asshole.
It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to get away from.
I'd be happy to see Twitter banned in Australia, to be honest. I'm fucking tired of it.
Well, it wouldn't be banned. They would, he wouldn't be able to travel here. I mean, they've got offices here.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to function without the Commonwealth saying, hey, champion.
Hey guys. Well, he's not paying bills, which is an interesting sign of where he's at with this whole thing. But that's for another episode. Let's just say that I would say this is going to be ignored by Musk to the best of his abilities because he's an actual fuckwit. He behaves like a petulant child, and it's astonishing that he ever got out of his parents' garage. Since firing his entire press team, any requests for information are responded to automatically with a poop emoji. Emails just responded to with a poop emoji. He thinks it's funny because the thing is, when you're really, really rich, nothing actually matters. Nothing impacts you. You can just basically see the world as a joke because if you want, you can just pay people around you to just sort of laugh on command. I mean, nothing is real in that point. And that's where he's at, which is great because now we're all beholden to this fucking asshole who just needs a lot of therapy. But all of this is why touching grass is really good for the soul, and getting some perspective is really important. Twitter is only a bin fire if you're in the bin and on fire. Jump out of the bin, and suddenly it all feels a bit cooler, and it feels a bit better, which is nice. I'm on day 2. It's great. I've only got mild shakes. So this leads to the introduction for this next bit. Try and remember that it's going to all be okay. The Twitterverse isn't the universe. The culture wars are not actual wars. With all the bigotry and the fighting and the dysfunction, it's hard to see that. It's hard to have perspective. And I understand this. I'm a part of it myself. But it really will all be okay in the end. Now, we do need to have each other's backs. We can't be lazy. We need to fight this constant shift towards bullying vulnerable people and this weird toxic identity politics that's just absolutely taken over the discourse recently. But we also need to see there is so much more to the world than just watching feral cookers and laughing at their stupidity and then, repeating what right-wing media blowhards say with outraged sense of sensibility. Because they're just pushing hatred and violence.
That's all Twitter is at the moment.
Exactly. And look, when it comes down to it, if you kick back, they just end up pushing this bloody victimhood mentality, saying how fucking oppressed they are. I mean, the entire thing is just, it's not serious, no one's genuine, and it's a fucking nightmare. So now I've got that out of the way, a little bit of a sort of a nice little pep talk. I'm going to punch you in the fucking mouth because what's coming up next sucks. Jordan fucking Peterson is trying to establish a far-right version of the World Economic Forum.
That junkie.
It's fucking tiring, man. I hate this so much.
He's the smartest junkie in the world.
He loves his
Jordan
Clonopin
Peterson.
and he loves his beef. And that's our George.
Incel Kermit the Frog has decided that his previous position, that is inherently bad for elites to gather at a conference and decide the future of the world, is actually only a problem if they're progressive.
Yes.
So thanks to some very, very rich people, they are having their inaugural meeting in London this year between October 30 and the 1st of November.
Great.
This one was sent to us in the form of a very badly titled Guardian article, headline, Tony Abbott and John Howard join Jordan Peterson-led group looking at the meaning of life.
Ugh.
We got that sent to us by a listener and friend of the podcast, Guy. Thank you, Guy.
Yeah, actually, fuck you for letting me know about this. I was so much happier before I knew this existed. This has taken years off my life.
This is not Guy's fault.
It is Guy's fault.
While the group will look at philosophical and ideological directions in what its website says is a public-facing way. What?
Yeah, I know.
The entire thing is far more dodgy than that and will justify an episode in the near future. They've recruited some Australians to the so-called advisory board, including former Prime Ministers Tony Abbott. Well, he does have a lot of hot time on his hands.
Yes.
And John Howard.
He's in the area too.
And former Deputy PM John Anderson of the National Party, who hasn't been in the Parliament since 2005, but has become a senior voice in the No campaign.
Yes. He's a prominent podcaster now, apparently. He called it Conversations, which I think Firedler has that.
He's gone out there.
Yeah.
He's lurking around the fringes, is Mr. Anderson.
Did you not realise that Conversations was taken, though? Firedler's got Conversations. He's called this podcast. You just double check that? Yeah, fucking idiot. Anyway, alongside those fine chaps is former Senator Amanda Stoker and current Australian Shadow Minister for Defence, Andrew Hastie. And we have actually said quite nice things about both of them in the past few episodes, and right now I'm starting to feel a little bit dirty on them. If you're associated with this, I think you're a piece of shit, but that's neither here nor there. We'll do a deeper dive on this later. The rest of the board, which is quite extensive, they've got a lot of people. It's strongly packed with climate deniers, big emphasis on climate denial, and just general right-wing nut jobs, including Dan Crenshaw, the one-eyed Texas Republican, who is fixated on trans issues.
Yeah, the usual suspects. It's this other thing. I mean, when we talk about Hastie and others coming along, Conservatives are very strange in that they really like to sort of collectivise. They like to get in numbers. They like to sit around and agree with one another. So they always need think tanks. This is what I've seen, and there are various groups around. The IPA is one. There's the one that Howard belongs to. They all sound lovely little institutions.
Oh, they've
but
always
they're
got
actually
such
sort
bullshit
of
names.
Breeding grounds for fringe politics. Yeah. And yeah, so this is I mean, Anderson, as I said, has been on this pathway for a long time. Tony Abbott has moved out into the fringes a long time ago. Perhaps that was sort of defined by his electoral defeat because, small L liberals, people who sit politically in the centre, people who live in Warringah have said, mate, we don't like your politics.
Yeah, you're a bit much, mate. You're a bit much,
So that's why, they all sort of congregate in these sort of little think tanks, and they have their little speech nights. They're generally all closed by 8:30 at night. This is the other thing. They don't really go for a drink or anything afterwards. It's all sort of like, I remember one that the one that Howard links to, and I wish I could think of the name. They had a Christmas.
Menzies Institute?
We won't come along and no, not Menzies Institute.
No, because there's a bunch of them. There's the IPA, there's Menzies.
Centre for Independent Studies.
Yeah, that checks out.
Centre for Independent Studies. Yeah. And they had a Christmas function, and it was basically started at 6:30 and everyone out by 8:30. Merry Christmas from Conservative.
I recently had an event at Sydney University, and this is a massive sidebar, but it was like this sort of alumni thing, free drinks, free food, from 6:30 till 7:30. I mean, come on. It was not even worth the journey.
It's a bit like that for the CIS
Fuck me. Come on, guys. Put on a spread. And they shut the bar 15 minutes early too. Anyway, fuck them. So, look, moving on. According to The Guardian, the article that Guy sent us, Galaxy Brain's South Australian Senator, an absolute fucking cooker, I mean, consummate cooker, Alex Antic, is attending the forum on a paid invite. Classic junket, which includes airfares, accommodation, and costs. Now,
got a bit of money.
Here's a bonus factoid about Antic. He has a podcast, and because, well, my theory goes, he's actually 2 8-year-olds in a trench coat laughing as an adult, he has called it Based. Based the podcast. Because it's 4chan language.
Oh.
This guy's a fucking idiot. He's just a fucking idiot.
Lordy, that's
fucking
troubling.
detest Antic. Detest him.
The ARC forum website has wishy-washy bullshit about their plans, but the people involved tell a story. 2 of the founding members and money backers are also the founders of GB News, which is basically a cooker news network in the UK that is backed by Legatum Ventures. Is that the right pronunciation?
Don't know. Legatum. You say potato, I say potato. Let's all call it dark money from Dubai.
Yes, indeed. The investment arm of a free market think tank. There we go again. They can all hang out till 8:30 at night of the same name.
Yeah, dodgy as fuck.
Legatum is based in Dubai.
That's right.
I mean, which is just a sinkhole of black money.
Oh, so much black money. Yeah. As we were saying before the show and we were having a chat about this, the chance of the Russians having their filthy fingerprints all over this is huge. But I haven't seen any suspicious Russian-looking names. I haven't seen any menus containing any beetroot
well, it wouldn't be that
soup.
Obvious, mate. It would not be that obvious.
Yeah, and I imagine they'll be hiding it.
And there may well be, Dubai money.
There may well be Dubai money. Definitely, the Emirates have their own interest in this, especially with the idea of basically the climate change denial aspect of this is huge. And I am going to do an episode on this, and probably the next episode, to be honest. But I always break these promises, so I try not to make them because I always break them. But this is really, really fascinating. There's a lot going on in it. One of the things that I find fascinating about the Russian thing, just a bit of a side note here, is that I feel like the way in which this whole sort of Russian interference of basically running these psyops by getting useful idiots in the US, like, your Trumps and your Kushner types, to basically do your bidding for you. And then you get to a point where you've got a self-sustaining organism where you've actually trained morons to work against their national interest in your interest. And they will even spend money on it. And that's when you go, oh, man, I've finally finished my painting. This is perfect. And I think I think Skynet has gone sentient if Skynet was a ridiculous concerted effort to destabilize the West from within by seeding the doubt of government and creating culture wars that will just divide the population. Anyway, that was definitely a side note. So look, it is very hard not to see this as a coordinated effort to take the culture wars into nuclear territory. This is totally the fucking plan here. And while it's billed as the brainchild of Jordan Peterson, it feels a lot more like he's the sort of face of this legatum project that's going on, because that's where the money is. And that being said, the story goes that Peterson started this as basically a tantrum after he was disciplined by the board of the College of Psychologists in Ontario. He did this as a bit of we can't have this. This wouldn't happen to someone at the WEF. He's an idiot. And he's a very useful one at that.
It's well worth discussing why he was disciplined by the College of Psychologists.
Well, I mean, it was posting.
And it was abusive posting.
Yeah, he was a fucking asshole. He was using dead names and stuff. He was just being a prick. And he was doing it very, very intentionally. His reprimands were basically for tweets. And when you say that, it sounds really bad. But as the fucking e-safety commissioner has just raised the flag on, that's abuse. It's not just Twitter.
It's sock puppeting. It's all sorts of abuse going on.
And also,
there.
you said you're flying
Peterson's
on someone.
despised by most thinking people for a reason.
Yeah.
The first is he thinks he's the smartest guy in every room, and he's not. He's a long way from that.
Yes.
I saw a clip from Rogan's show where he had Peterson on, and he said, I just want to say you look fantastic, which is Rogan's way of sort of trying to brush over the fact that Peterson looks awful.
Oh, he's gaunt
He
as fuck.
looks sick.
Yeah. Well, only eats meat.
Gaunt as, and he started off eating meat and greens, restricting his diet to that on the basis of his daughter's recommendation, who's not a nutritionist, by the way, but provides nutrition information or advice to people.
But also, she's crippled with autoimmune disorders, where a ketogenic diet has genuine benefits, where he is just a fucking fruitcake.
This guy could die at any given at any given time. He's never been able to explain why he got hooked. And I didn't realise that the anti-anxiety drugs were addictive.
You're a psychologist, bro.
What?
You're a fucking...
You're an academic psychologist.
Can't you prescribe these things?
That? This guy's not smart.
No.
This guy's just a vehicle. Anyway,
He's definitely a fucking vehicle. Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, basically when you look at it, Peterson lives in this ridiculous, weird Twitter bubble surrounded by sycophants. And you'll have someone like Elon Musk who posts these ambiguous, annoying tweets like, wow, concerning. Every time Peterson tweets some kind of bullshit brain fart about how trans people are murdering children in the street or something dumb like that. But this leads to my next concern and thought, which is that my money is on Musk being there or being involved in some sort of way, which just inserts more billionaires into a group that appears to be seeking to red pill the planet. And how will they legitimize this, you ask? Well, just like the World Economic Forum, they're going to get a whole bunch of people together, some of them in government, and tell them then what to bring up in their respective industries and parliaments. Let's face it, that's what's going to happen. You're going to see Antic going to this fucking meeting and coming back and being like, oh, I've got an inquiry. Fuck you.
Well, Antic won't survive the next election.
Yeah, but he'll be there long enough to get back from this conference and be annoying.
Yeah, but he's got no authority in the party. Everyone thinks he's a kook. What? So a lot of this stuff, look, I guess it may manifest itself in sort of Republican Congresses, state and federal in the United States. There may be manifestations of it in European politics and perhaps a little bit here. But ultimately, what this is, Joel, is a grab for OPEC money, for oil money.
Yeah, that's the climate change denial angle, I think. I really do think there's a lot going on there. But I think it is guided by culture wars and culture warriors who will get the passion by that. And then the byproduct that is the hook. That is exactly it. So I'll give you the difference, because they're saying this is like an answer. This is like a counterweight is one of the words someone used to the World Economic Forum. The crucial difference between this and the World Economic Forum is that the World Economic Forum is actually a business for Klaus Schwab. It's a cash cow. He charges for entry and he charges a lot of money. This one, they pay people to come. That's a big difference.
For Alec Antic. Well, except for Alec Antic, who's paying for his attendance?
He's getting a junket. This entire thing's paid for.
But who by? He must have
by
to.
The Garda.
By who?
By the funders.
So he will have to at some point. He will have to declare that.
No, that's where they found it out in the Guardian article. They found out that this was happening because he declared on his interests. Oh, there you go. There's bucksheesh going on here.
So the money's already changed hands.
Totally.
Yeah, okay.
So usually in the World Economic Forum, the government would basically pay money to send people over so they can hobnob with people and they can make these things. They can be in on the latest thing, blah, blah, blah. And, it's basically a huge conference. And they go
But everyone in bed at 8:30.
Well, yes, of course. Well, no, they're probably all up to their tits on meth. But this is the thing. I reckon, and this is definitely a reach, this means that these motherfuckers owe this organization a favor. And a favor they want to carry out because they want the culture wars more than anyone else. So it's real quid pro quo and it works in everyone's favor. But, who are they going to owe this favor to? There's Kermit the Incel and there is a Dubai-based investment firm. This is really, really murky waters. So it doesn't really feel as much of a sort of forum as it does this sort of timeshare style junket to synchronize this messaging for right-wing culture warriors who have some sort of media reach. I'm sure some people listen to his dumbass-based fucking podcast. But anyway, look, this will be an episode and we've fleshed this out as a bit of an introduction because there's so much to unpack here. I've gone down the rabbit hole and oh my God, all I've seen is just more and more things to unpack.
When's the seminar?
It's in October, November.
Okay.
It's fucking torture though. There's so much money going on.
We should cover it. We should definitely
cover it. We should fucking go. But yes, I know.
We should too.
Like I said, man, promising an episode is basically meaning it's never going to happen. But this is fucked. This group is fucked. I can't stop thinking about it. This whole entire thing is very fucked. And that's why I gave you the good pep talk earlier. Go touch some grass because that would have hurt. That was a real punch in the guts for all of you. We thought that maybe things were going to get better before they got worse, and maybe we're seeing a bit of a spike in things. Unfortunately, some very wealthy people are going to ensure that the people of this world, at least the Western world, live in a state of constant paranoia, fear, and anger, and divisiveness. And look, as a result, maybe this will just make Twitter increase their market cap. He's lost a lot of money, so that's good.
He's lost quite a lot of money.
Well done. Well done, Elon.
Yeah, look, I wonder if Avi Yemeni wants to go and whether he'll start a GoFundMe or a donation drive.
Oh, my God, they're totally going to fuck me. Oh, they're going to send Avi, aren't they?
Well, that's why we would never go, Joel, because the only way we could go is through donated money, but we're not going to go because we're not going to sink to those levels, Joel. We're not going to sink to the Yemeni levels.
If there's any shady billionaires listening, you know where to send your shekels if you want to throw me a few dimes and take me to this dumb conference. I will cover it. And
I'm not going because I like to I like to walk the streets after 8:30 at night. John Howard. Oh God, I know he's just a guest, and they're getting a prime minister, and same with Abbott, of course. The Liberals continue to drag John Howard out as some sort of electoral asset, and with the exception of 2019, and I'm including by-elections, I'm including state elections, they've been belted every single time, with the exception of 2019, which I'm going to say is not down to John Howard. It's probably down to people having a good look at Bill Shorten going, Yeah,
Yeah, that was what happened.
But Howard is a nightmare, and people are well and truly over him.
Yeah. No, he's shit, but he'll just bring some sort of gravitas to the whole thing. Basically, look.
He brings a little bit of gravitas, as does Abbott, until he actually speaks. Or he walks. You should see the way he walks. He's just got this funny gait. It's like, it's really strange. And he sort of bristles aggression and so forth. So when people come and meet him for the first time, they're always on the back foot.
He's a shirt fronter. That's what he is.
Because you just think he's going to start throwing punches. Is that sort of aggressive?
Yeah,
Look, at face value, he's not a bad human being. I'm not suggesting that for a moment. But he has this sort of hyper aggression about his body language that must be off-putting for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's driven by the fact that most of the people Abbott's come across in his life have been people who've said to him, mate, that's a bit crazy. Champion,
calm down.
Lighten up a bit, mate.
Well, I reiterate my call that you only have to pay for one airfare, business class, please, and I'll go see Dan Schreiber, and it'll be great.
Nah, not doing that. I'm not doing it anyway. I would never drag money out of people to do that because that's Avi Yemeni at the New South Wales floods.
It is. And speaking of Avi Yemeni, let's go to a Cooker Update.
Oh, yes, let's do it. Great segue.
Cows have fucking masks on.
Everybody is up for the high jump if they deserve it. If they deserve to hang, they will hang.
Rise up, Australia. Men of Australia, time to step up and be real men. Protect your kids or go down biggest cowards this country has ever seen. Hang that animals.
It has been a huge week for the died suddenly anti-vaxxer cult who have recently discovered the concept of death. Wow. Never thought of it before. Like it. And have decided that it's exclusively caused by COVID-19 vaccines.
Yes.
What else?
Yeah, I mean, there's no other possible explanation, which is just fantastic. So on June 18th, a Houston, Texas-based rapper named Big Pokey died after collapsing on stage. Mr. Pokey was just 45 years young, so that's a bit sad.
I don't know Mr. Pokey.
Mr. Pokey?
But when he's got the big...
it's not just a clever name. He's big.
He's a large human being.
He's a big boy.
That's what I'm thinking.
He's a big boy. Yeah. His vaccination status is publicly unknown, but ghouls have latched onto this as they do with any other death of note. That being said, is Big Pokey a death of note? The real thing here is that while they love famous people dying because they can say it's the vaccine, they really like collapses, sudden collapses. It's, the died suddenly thing really encapsulates it.
Died suddenly.
It's totally their thing.
Big Pokey, I just took a look at a photo of him. He's big.
He's big. Oh, Pokey's big. Yeah, and like I say.
His Instagram was littered with delicious-looking food, which we can only assume he ate in large quantities.
Well, he stuck it
get
on.
me a bucket. He also posted photos of himself at the gym a lot, which, as they say, exercise isn't healthy until it makes your heart explode.
It does happen. It does happen.
Go and do a stress test.
It does happen.
Go and do a stress test, Big Pokey. You'll be alive now, man.
Yeah, get an ECG, mate. It's good.
Theories from people who actually consider this have factored in a heat warning for the area, which may have exacerbated an underlying condition. One user on Twitter said,
people need to stop jumping to vax theories. We couldn't breathe out in Beaumont, Texas this weekend. The air was extremely thick and we had heat warnings all over the state. People were passing out all over the place from heat.
What do you mean? Heat kills people, Joel? How does that work?
Only in France, where they're cowards.
Also worth noting that his style of music, which he helped pioneer, is associated with lean, also known as purple drank or scissor, which is a mix of codeine and cough medicine.
Now, you should pay $5.
Terrific for the heart.
$5 a month just to hear Jack the Insider say scissor, I think is worth it. I mean, look, I know it's free, but that was fair. That was very, very good, and I got a lot of satisfaction from that. So look, there's all these explanations. It could have been opiate use, which with fentanyl in it. It could have been the heat. It could have been he was a bit chubby. Arteries have a bit of a way of...
Done a post-mortem on this fat bastard yet?
Not fucking... These bodies barely hit the deck and they decided it's the fucking jab. So this is the thing. They don't even know if he had the jab. Yanks have like a vaccine rate of like 10%. They're fucking nuts. They don't, obviously. But, they don't get vaccinated over there because they're all fucking pilled. So this is insane to think that he's just been vaccinated because he collapsed. But this is the thing. The truth doesn't matter to anti-vaxxers. And we know this. But their latest fixation has not been a death, but an incident where the famously Coke-drinking Pepsi spokesman Robbie Williams, very funny thing in an interview, I won't go into it too much, supposedly pulled a pin on a headline show at Pink Pop in Holland due to his struggle with long COVID.
Ooh,
now,
that's no
this
good.
is made with some good catnip for cookers. He didn't fucking halt the show. Such a bullshit headline. I looked into it. He played his standard set list. He went through the whole thing. But he had a pause after the third song, stopped the band, and said,
I'm fucked. It's long COVID. Not my age, you bastards.
which is pretty funny. He's a funny guy.
He's quite vain.
I like him.
He's quite vain.
And there's all these kids in the audience because like they love Robbie Williams, but like he's like swearing all over the place. I like him a lot. It's been reported that he takes long breaks during songs as well. And I mean, this is standard operating procedure for basically any rock star over 50. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne.
Well, he sang 3 together at the MCG on Grand Final Day.
Yeah, and then he got to go and fucking have an ice bath. He was, you can handle 3. I remember Axl Rose midway through November Rain took a pause and said, "It's a long fucking song, man," and that was in 2009, I think. It was Ross Coulthart, 2008, I think. Either way, it was ages ago. 2005? I think it was 2005. Anyway, it's just when Chinese Democracy Tour was happening, whatever. Ozzy Osbourne, who I saw with Isaac in Sacramento, he gets a guy named Zach Wilde, who's fucking amazing, super amazing guitar player, to just fill in most of his sets with these hectic guitar shredding solos. He just fucks off backstage. I'm guessing for adrenochrome or some shit. He comes back looking pretty good. Yeah, just drain some kids, jab in the bum, no worries. Brian fucking Wilson, who came out for the Sydney Festival opener, which is a big free gig, which is amazing. We all got really pissed and stood around and listened to Beach Boys songs. He didn't just have backup singers. He had singers who were there for when he just sort of drifted off into Neverland and forgot the words, and they just start singing.
Yeah. Brian tends to be a bit
forgetful. He was like a million.
Didn't he, he did not leave his home for something like 12 years?
I think there was something like that. And I think there was some acid and there was some Charles Manson involved.
Oh, yeah, he's taken a lot. He's got that punkin head of someone who's taken way too much acid. Williams has been on tour since last year. Bet to Robbie, with relatively long gaps between shows, hitting the road but not hitting the road hard like many touring musicians used to.
Well, I mean, they'll do 5 days a fucking week. Mental.
Yeah, well, that's often due to family and personal reasons, which are fair enough. It might well be due to getting COVID, not being quite able to shake the spiky bastard from his system. He's probably right. He's been told he's got long COVID.
He's not having a good time. Of course, all of this is due to the vaccine. Of course. I mean, there's no other explanation.
Well, Robbie says that.
No, well, I mean...
cookers do.
Cookers do. Robbie's an interesting case, though. We'll get to that in a second. Because as it was a great clickbait title to say all this, all the usual suspects posted an article about this because it's, Robbie stopped a concert. You'll never guess why. And you have to click into this like, it's on COVID. Oh, thanks for that. So on all these social media articles with these clickbait titles, they had the posts. They have the comment section. Today's show. Comment section, fine. Well wishes, all that bullshit. We love Robbie, whatever. News.com.au, often a cesspit. Fine. Well wishes, blah, blah, hope he's okay.
Get better soon, Robbie.
Easy. Totally reasonable stuff. Just, the usual. 7 News. That's where the flying monkeys landed. So you're guessing, like, in my place on Facebook or some shit they fucking posted. That one link, that was posted somewhere with that 50,000 cookers. And they all just descended on this comment section. It was an absolute bin fire. If all you saw was that post, you would genuinely think the anti-vaxxers were about 80% of the population. Of course, electoral data will show that is not the case.
No, astroturfing.
Yes. But the thing is that they just put the call out to descend on that one thread, and it has a significant presence of anti-vaxxers. One genius commented, how come the unjabbed are never getting long COVID? And I'm really glad you asked that, Johnny, because Robbie Williams actually got COVID before he was vaccinated, you fucking cooker twat. Williams got COVID in April 2020 and January 2021. He was first vaccinated in April 2021, who was actually one of the first in line to get the jab.
Yeah, well, it's due to his age, I suppose. They hit up a couple of 80-year-olds. And then, Robbie, you're next.
Well, to be fair, he had natural immunity because he got it in January 2021 as well. Well, he was pretty keen to get the jab, apparently.
This is one of those things, and I could probably pull up a few studies, but what we're talking about is the higher incidence of long COVID or enduring symptoms of COVID associated with multiple infections.
That's one.
And we've seen that with a few sportsmen, actually. Marcus Stoinis, one of our ODI players, I think he's had COVID 4 times.
Fucking hell, mate. Where are you hanging out?
And I think that if it was the last one, you think probably, the first one would be the hardest. I think the last one really hit him quite hard.
Yeah.
And he's had some problems. He's had some problems ongoing.
People get lazy on the jabs too.
Oh no, because of who they are, they'd be getting jabbed all the time.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I want a fucking trial, so they got a timer on me.
Because they're living in those days, 2020, 2021, they were living in sort of COVID bubble.
Yeah, that checks out. Yeah.
and kept playing. So look, I just mentioned him as an example, but where you've got multiple infections of COVID, let's put aside the vaccine and whether he's vaccinated or not. What we're talking about here is if you have multiple COVID infections, this should be of concern to everybody.
Yeah, that's fair.
They're just looking in the wrong fucking way. But what we saw this, and it's the same. It's the same with, let's say, diabetes and those sorts of issues. That it tends to relate the infection. If you've had multiple COVID infections, regardless of whether you're vaccinated or not, you will have a higher risk of developing diabetes.
Yeah.
In fact, that clinical study was 27,000 people in the United States, so significant numbers.
Yep.
Also pointed to the fact that if you were unvaccinated, that risk was in fact higher.
I feel like you've answered John's question by saying that the unjabbed do get long COVID. And also diabetes.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
But the bigger concern is that I mean, look, people who are unvaccinated died. I mean, 165,000 it's estimated. 165,000 Americans died.
Preventable.
Citizens of the United States of America died because they didn't have the jab, and that was not because the jab wasn't available or wasn't around at the time. 165,000 died between the years of 2021 and 2022 because they decided they didn't want to, because they fell into these sort of anti-vax traps.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Into this anti-vax rhetoric.
People like RFK Jr.
And they are, as you say, preventable. And so back to Robbie again. William's first bout of COVID had him isolated for 21 days and hit him hard. He got full-flavoured COVID without the jab. This is the early COVID.
Oh, yeah. The real
strong
COVID
one. Without the jab, and is reported to have got down on his knees and prayed as he was genuinely fearful for his life. It's not good. No. We're not celebrating that.
No, if you're praying for your life, that's bad.
You're in a bad way.
But I tell you what, there is a silver lining on this dark cloud because the prayer did the trick. And Williams reported to say...
Could be a coincidence.
Well, I will strike you down with lightning. So here's the quote. I never normally do it, but I got down on my knees and prayed. I thought of my wife and family. Within 30 seconds, that's like an injection of prayer, I had lifted my vibration and was in love.
Yes. Got a vibrator there as well.
Well,
I mean,
dude, you're in isolation.
I don't think God's going to be listening to you if you're using a vibrator while praying.
Mate, if you are in isolation, if you're in quarantine, I have no judgment.
I get that. I totally get that. I'm not kink shaming Robbie here.
He's a
what I'm
sex
saying
man
is
too.
Time and a place for everything. And if you're going to start talking to God, put the fucking vibrator away.
True.
Man.
And also, if you're thinking about your wife and family, I mean, maybe isolate it to your wife and not the...
That's a bit weird too, Robbie.
Yeah, look, this is terrible, and I'm gonna put all that aside because that was really bad. I love you for it. To be fair on Williams, he has spoken openly about his battles with crippling depression. So that segue was rough. But he's really cool about that. He's really open about it. His bipolar has always been something that's been a part of his personality. And he's really, really good at trying to normalize it with people. And celebrities like that doing that are fucking gold dust.
Yes.
He's also in a situation of quarantine, away from his family and isolated. And he's only got, Twitter? I mean, fuck that. So he'd been using meditation and mindfulness to basically ensure he didn't fall into a sadness trap and, neck himself, which he apparently thinks about constantly during this extended quarantine. So fair enough. I totally rate that. Look, the vibrator's going to get you through the sadness. I'm fucking all about it. Get yourself a dildo, get a fucking bookshelf off them. But Robbie Williams is actually a massive cooker. And I didn't fucking see this coming. I basically did this as like a quick died suddenly thing. And then I went down this massive rabbit hole when I realized this guy is baked as fuck. Like, it does come as a bit of a surprise that Williams got the jab. When you consider his past comments on conspiracy theories and theorists, including the vaccine itself. So after his first bout of COVID, he was asked when he was going to take the vaccine. And he said, I plead the fifth. and that he would leave the decision.
Not American, Robbie. Don't say that.
I know, but he lives in the US, and it's fair enough.
I say anyone who's not American who says I plead the fifth. You just got to ignore.
It's
those
a turn of phrase. I've probably said it before.
Get the trucks pulled up to their house. Come on.
I'm going to start saying that more in the podcast. Just
re-education.
You're
not going to be pleading the fifth anymore.
I'll be pleading the fifth through the podcast forever for this point. So look, he said he was going to leave the decision to his more rational wife, Ada Field, and that's fair enough. He seemed like he was kind of, obfuscating the situation. But he also went on to say, when it comes to it, I'll have my suspicions and my worry and my fear, just like I have every time we've taken the kids down to the doctors for their injections. And I must say that is pretty reasonable. I'm not an anti-vaxxer.
Not an unreasonable statement.
I think it's like even if you're like, blah, blah, vaccines are gold dust and everyone's happy and I have 900 of them, still, if you're going to jab a kid's arm, you're always going to have that wincing feeling. Anytime you're doing it.
Yeah. My granddaughter had her 6-week vaccinations.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they are, but I fretted for her because it's owie.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a needle.
And, she might feel like shit.
It's owie.
And if anything does happen, I mean, your entire world will fucking fall apart. So, I get it. But this was also after he thought he was going to die from COVID. So, come on, man. You've seen this pandemic isn't fucking around. Also, in an interview with a conspiracy theorist, and I'm surprised that he's in there, but it turns out he's going to perform doing this. This former journalist, Anna Breeze, who put to him a whole bunch of bullshit from a censored doctor. You know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that, right?
Uh-huh.
Which Robbie rightly dismissed as, I took this out of the quote, second-hand information, which is good. I mean, he sort of swatted the thing away. Very reasonable. But that also followed Robbie claiming that Pizzagate had not been debunked and was pushing for questions to be asked.
Questions to be asked over Pizzagate.
What's walnut sauce, Podesta? Now, I can refer you now to this someday I call it a conspiracy Pizzagate 8-part fucking series that basically lays that all out. Robbie, would you like to listen to that? You might get some answers from Neil Saunders. He also stated that he is curious to explore so-called conspiracy theories around the sexual abuse of children by powerful politicians and high-profile celebrities. Pilled. And you know why?
He's just curious. Just asking questions.
You know who else he asked questions to? His mate, David Icke.
Oh, David.
The lizard guy. The one who thinks the royal family is lizards.
Lizard guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, I've had a look. Have you had a look at Prince Andrew lately, Joe?
Honestly, he's a kitty
if
fiddler.
If that guy's not a lizard, I'm not here.
Yeah. No, he doesn't sweat. Doesn't sweat.
Yeah.
So
that's all the evidence I need.
That's all the evidence I need.
Look, I just want to make a little side note about Anne Breeze, a journo turned conspiracy theorist. God, there's a few of them. It's disappointing. Mm-hmm. She was hilariously caught in a very Angus Taylor moment where she forgot that she was logged into her main account and sent herself heaping praise. She posted on Twitter, "Thank you for the follow, Anna. I've followed and admired your work and courage from the beginning. You're authentic and totally lovable."
Amazing. I love that she said she was authentic. Isn't that the best part?
Authentic I get in the Angus Taylor way, but totally lovable, that's a sickness.
Yeah, it is. There's a weird narcissism to that, isn't it?
You want to get your hands on Robbie Williams' vibrator because you're making love to yourself there. You're a fucking chronic narcissist.
That is so fucking true. And it's crazy because that is such a anti-vaxxer thing. You're a journo, no one gives a fuck about you. You write a few articles here and there. Suddenly you're a conspiracy theorist and everyone's calling you a fucking hero and saying how smart you are. That's how all this works. It's a cult based on endorphins, and we've explored all this before. If you listen to the podcast, you know this. But this is irrelevant to Robbie. But it is a bit of a theme in this episode with these sort of fucker conspiracy theorists being shamelessly full of themselves and full of shit. The great thing about this is this was all called out. 0 repercussions from her cooked cult members. They still love her.
No.
She did other posts without realizing it was her account, but that one was the funniest one. We don't have all fucking day, right? But there were more than one, and it's totally fine. Anyway, moving on.
In a video shared widely on Telegram and Rumble, Williams claims, "We are in a post-truth world where you can't believe the media, you can't believe Big Pharma, you can't believe politicians, you can't believe what you're eating, and you can't believe in yourself." Robbie,
it's a handbrake turn there.
Double up on the meds there, champion. You clearly battling.
Controversial. Look, it is an embarrassing fucking quote. And this was only last month. This was in mid-May. 2023 on a conspiracy theory podcast called Weaponized. So you can see he hangs out with the cookers, basically. That's his thing. And I would say with this one, the medium is the message. I mean, if he's on a conspiracy theory podcast called fucking Weaponized, this is his where he chooses to direct his attention, right?
But just like anyone who flirts with cookers, it all comes undone the moment you go against the dogma. When he released a video with his wife saying they were off to get vaccinated, he became another sheep for Big Pharma in the eyes of most pilled parrots who think anyone who got the jab is not only a dumb sheep, but also destined for an early death. Should have happened by now.
Off to the abattoir, Robbie. Off to the abattoir. So the comments of the 7 News section thing, the comment section of the 7 News post shows how fucking basic these people are. I mean, like, they're saying dumb shit like, why are the jab getting long COVID? Because that's the thing. Just asking questions makes sense to you. Do some research. He's one of yours, you fucking idiot.
Well, he's a bit. He's tinkering. Look, I would suggest that someone like Robbie Williams, that would be career death if he went full blown anti-vaxxer.
But hey, look, he's doing the circuit. He's doing the rounds. He's
Never go full anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, I think that's basically
the
what he's done. But he also did get the jab. At least according to the video, he may not have actually got it. We don't genuinely know. He did do a video basically with his wife saying we're off to get vaccinated, and that entirely could have been a PR thing, and he entirely could have not got it done. I haven't seen his vax passport. I don't fucking know.
I think that's going a bit far.
You just don't know, though. You just don't know. It's just like Big Pokey. We don't fucking know. But at the end of the day, I take his word that he did get vaccinated, but he also got COVID twice before the jab, which is probably the reason why he has long COVID, because I don't know. Duh. Anyway, so look, we'll segue into the next piece with William's thoughts on his friend Shane Warne's passing, because they were mates. Williams, they were buds. And Williams described it as terrifying, and that it gave him a new perspective on the fragility of life. And that's kind of beautiful for someone who battles with, sort of suicidal ideations. And I know about this because I searched Robbie Williams on Telegram, and this Daily Mail article came up, and the article was linked, but the byline on the post was "Bye Bye Robbie" from an account called the Yorkshire Lass, because anti-vaxxers are just like that. That's just what they're like. They're just...
That was the byline?
Well, that wasn't the byline on the article. It was the byline of the post.
Oh, I
Telegram.
see. Oh, God. The Yorkshire
Bye
Lass.
Bye Robbie.
Classy.
Classy. Who does that? Oh, you got vaccinated, now you're going to die, and I relish in your fucking demise.
Yeah.
So
it's
it comes up to the 1 year anniversary of cricket legend Shane Warne's death. Fucking miserable. And a biopic, as we mentioned earlier, named Warnie, is being filmed. And this is
no, it's about to be. It's coming out next week.
Well, apparently this happened recently, and it was being filmed. So it must be a fucking accelerated process, because it came to a halt. The filming came to a halt. Or maybe this is a retrospective story. I'm not sure. I glanced over the article. It was clickbait. And it was funny.
Oh no, they've been promoting the hell out of it on the cricket on the Channel 9's cricket coverage.
Because it makes a bit of sense.
It's coming.
Either way,
if it's not next week, it's very soon.
Chronology aside, the actors playing Warne and his wife Simone had an unfortunate incident, article's words, not mine, during the filming of an intimate scene which resulted in injuries to both of them, which required bandaging and treatment. Their words, not mine. I like it. It's very good. And this is classic Warnie, because, look, you can say what you like about the Sultan of Spin, but we can all agree that Warnie fucked a lot.
He did.
Chad Underwood, you've got...
All right. We don't
Hunter
need to show some class.
Biden.
The anniversary of Warne's death has, to nobody's surprise, brought out the died suddenly ghouls. Anti-vaxxers who are still clinging on to the idea that the jab will kill you are attributing as many deaths to it as they can. Awful people.
Yep.
Trying to turn Warnie into an anti-vax trope is particularly offensive. Warne's untimely death was a shock to many who grew up with the larrikin, a man who arguably accounts for a large part of what we call Australian culture. He's a fucking legend, and these clowns should be up against the wall.
Yep.
He's a fucking legend, and these clowns should be up against the wall.
Yep, flensed.
Flensed, oh yeah, immediately flensed.
100%.
In February this year, the official cause of death was released as coronary artery atherosclerosis, or CVD, which is a build-up of plaque in the heart that narrows the arteries and can lead to a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
There are various ways, very simple tests that you can have done
Yeah.
to determine the level of plaque in your
It's
heart.
preventable.
It's actually just a blood,
It's a real shame.
blood sample. The CVD was the underlying cause of 42,300 deaths in Australia, or 25% of all deaths in 2019. So, yeah, this definitely existed before the pandemic. It's common, but that's not going to get in the way of these dickheads trying to make this all about the jab. Often affects people in their middle ages, and Warnie was 52.
Yeah.
When I first trundled off to the doctor to sort of talk about losing weight, I said I should just probably exercise. I said, "Oh my God, don't do that!" Don't just start. And this is what a lot of people do. They just find. I'm sure that Warnie was a bit fitter than me, but people who are ostensibly quite fit can just start doing a lot of exercise that their bodies aren't used to, and bang.
Yeah, he was shredding for a Instagrammable summer in Thailand. Which
he
is
did
very
have
sad.
some very strange sort of attitudes towards diet. Whenever he put weight on, he would sort of, I think he would starve himself.
Crash diet.
Essentially, wouldn't he?
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, crash diet, crash.
O'Neill's did this whole thing about the juice cleanse he was on, and that sort of stuff. Totally missing the point of being a cunt, which I think we'll cover in the premium because I didn't want to put in the main because it's frustrating and long and blah, blah, blah. But fuck, I hate that, man. Anyway, so moving on. There is a headline in the Times of India this week, which is a fucking anti-vax rag at the best of times. And it reads...
Is it?
Oh, fucking disgusting.
So that is the leading English-speaking newspaper in India.
Oh, the stuff they publish is fucking disgusting. And this is an example of it in a big fucking way. So...
Yeah, I mean, like I know the Times of India well, and it bothers me that it's like that.
Clickbait. It's just fucking clickbait. And it works because it's being virally shared. That being said, it's also being syndicated, so backfired on you. There you go. Send subpoenas, whatever. Don't care. So, medics fear COVID vaccine linked to cricketer Shane Warne's sudden death. Now, let's take that. Okay.
Was this contemporaneous, or is this just now on the first anniversary?
Yeah, this first anniversary.
Oh.
Yeah. So, medics is interesting because that's interesting, right? Like cricket medics.
Yeah, medics.
Like
That would indicate
like
doctors
paramedics,
and so forth, yeah.
Like sport medics, like, okay, that's interesting. No. Though, this is the opening article paragraph, which is a leading UK-based Indian origin consultant cardiologist and an Australian medic said on Tuesday that they fear the sudden death last year of Australian cricket legend Shane Warne may have been precipitated by the COVID mRNA vaccine that he had taken approximately 9 months prior. 9 fucking months, pretty impressive.
As Elon Musk would say, concerning.
Oh, concerning.
A leading consultant cardiologist, eh? Who could that possibly be, Joe?
Yeah,
Got a name?
10 points if you guessed Aseem Malhotra.
Ah, there you go.
You don't know
didn't
him.
Have him in the, didn't have him in the bingo.
He's a fucking vicious anti-vaxxer. And who could the Australian medic be? Who's that? Dr. Chris Neal.
Oh. Well, hang on. Who or what is Dr. Chris Neal?
Good question. Good question. I didn't know either. He is the president of the Australian Medical Professional Society. That sounds
august.
Official. That's not a fake union that was started during the pandemic to basically represent anti-vax health workers and fleece them of their salaries. So AMPS recently partnered with Malhotra to do a tour around Australia, which was sponsored by far right scumbag radio station, internet radio station, TNT Radio, which recently got rid of David Richardson because he's too much of a fucking Nazi, or no one was listening. I'd say both.
I know TNT Radio. Yeah.
Scumbags.
I know some of the people who are involved in it. And, yeah, they're just asking questions, you know.
Just cunts. They are just cunts. Anyway, so in a moment of baffling bullshittery, Aseem tweeted this.
Breaking. Times of India. Shane Warne's death linked to COVID mRNA vaccine, say leading medics. Former England cricketer and his best mate, Dimitri Mascarenhas, supports calls for jab suspension. Shane wouldn't want others to be harmed. This is huge. End message from Aseem.
Well, he's just stumbled upon it. He's just stumbled upon this amazing link. He's the fucking medic.
He's the medic that got mentioned.
It's you. You're the one who said it. It's not breaking news, mate. You're literally fucking quoting yourself. This article is about your comments.
Is that true about Dimitri?
It is.
Because Did he actually say that?
It's in the article. Look, I can't say it's true. As far as I know, Asim basically sent this to the Times of India and they published it without even fucking looking into it. But according to the article, Dimitri did say that, and yes, that's disappointing.
I'm still getting this in sites like Daily Skeptic and so forth.
Look, it's all on the fringe. I mean, like, you know,
Mascarenas is not an Indian Premier League. I'm just looking at some of the Indian Premier League cricketer. He's not at all. He's way too old for that.
Well, he lives in Australia as well.
Yeah, he lives in Australia. Former England county cricketer, and that's where Warne and he met each other.
Well, I think they played for the same team over there in the off season.
They played for the same county over there.
Before the IPL,
Shane was my best friend. I'm shocked and saddened to know that his death. Yeah, look, reportedly he's saying these things. I wouldn't trust the nature of the reporting.
No, fuck no. I wouldn't trust this fucking asshole. He lies through his fucking teeth as for sport.
Yeah. Oh,
it's
wow.
his
Look,
fucking career.
Many experts have said.
Yeah. I mean, many experts have said, me, I'm the expert, you fucking moron. Now, it really is annoying about this fucking Dimitri situation because Shane was vocal about his support for the jab. He made cookers irate. They wanted blood when he panned Djokovic for not getting the jab and basically being a lying and slimy dickhead. He was a real public face on that.
Yeah, so it's bullshit. But, of course, catnip to anti-vaxxers. This isn't the first anti-vax shit piece that the Times of India has run. I'm so sorry to hear that. I haven't read the Times of India for a very, very long time, but I used to read it regularly, and I gather editorial standards have slipped somewhat.
Look, yeah, I'm guessing change of ownership.
Look, overall, the lesson is stay the fuck away from Shane Keith Warne, you nasty fuck. Stop politicising his death and leave his family to continue to grieve.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Basically, Malhotra, he goes on to say that it's quite unusual for someone of his age to die, blah, blah, blah. He goes on to say that there's an unhealthy lifestyle, that he was overweight and a smoker, but then he explains that he's seen with his own patients, and I'm not sure if he even practices anymore, and how his own father died. I don't know, was he like a practicing doctor at that point? I don't know.
We talked about this. Basically, FIFA, or the European subset of FIFA, has arranged. In fact, it's actually FIFA. FIFA actually did a study of sudden deaths in soccer.
That's right, yeah.
Football, and because they did this, they started this 10 years before the pandemic, by the way, and because people were dropping like flies.
Yeah,
and the less fit, further away from the elite level of football, you got the higher instances of these sort of. It's actually called sudden death syndrome.
Yeah, yeah. And it's fucking infuriating in this situation because in this quote, he basically says, it's likely that some mild underlying furring of his arteries rapidly progressed in the months after he received 2 doses of the Pfizer mRNA COVID vaccine. You don't know that, Asim.
You don't.
You're just making that shit up.
There's no way that he could see.
You don't know anything.
That is just completely made up.
It's just a reach.
Mild underlying furring of his arteries. That's obviously a cardiological term.
Just everyone knows what he's talking about, right?
Step aside, people. I'm a cardiologist. Underlying furring of his arteries, as I've seen with my own patients and how my own father died.
Well, look, everyone that I've seen since the COVID pandemic has got the jab, and now they've got arteries full of pool balls. There's like little trinkets in there. I think there's some copper art furniture in there. I'm not even sure how to find the blood. Fuck you. Anyway, it's Warnie. The Warnie factor.
Look,
that's what
it has to
off.
be one of the biggest reaches in medical history. Just wild. He has absolutely no basis to make the claim whatsoever. But he's an anti-vax grifter, giving the punters what they want. So he served it up.
So, look, from the moment Warne hit the deck, these pricks have been trying to make it about the fucking vaccine. Once the cause of death came out, which is one of the biggest causes of death before the pandemic hit, they still use it as a vehicle to push anti-vax nonsense. You can see these people are fucking scum. And since this has come out, we've seen the articles all over the usual places. It's been syndicated everywhere through all sorts of publications, and they're sharing it like wildfire. There's this weird, gleeful, I told you so energy from the usual fucking morons because they don't stop to think, hold on, why are only anti-vaxxers saying this? Or maybe I'll Google this health condition to just understand more about it and see maybe if there was a prevalence before the pandemic. No. You see,
do your own research.
No, the Yassine bloke said that it was caused by the vaccine. That fits my narrative, which is perfect for me. So I'm just going to read the rest of the article while I go and have a durry and maybe eat a meat pie, and then I'll go for a run because I'll feel bad about it. Fucking morons. It has been a huge week in Pete Evans, with the craggy-faced mohawk guy getting very excited about the RFK Jr. spot on Joe Rogan.
Oh, he's got a major boner for RFK Jr.
Oh, it's embarrassing. It's a long-running one, and fair enough. Anti-vaxxers like anti-vaxxers. It's like metalheads like metalheads. It's fine. For those who haven't spent their last week on Twitter, RFK Jr. went on Joe Rogan and talked absolute nonsense to one of the most gullible people in media.
Just dribble.
Oh, just pathetic. Which resulted in a huge perceived win for anti-vaxxers and right-wing chuds in general, because they're all in the same weird ecosystem. Never mind the fact that RFK Jr. is running as a Democrat, which is total horseshit, and basically an elaborate troll by someone who is being materially backed by Steve Bannon and Roger Stone, who are well-known Democrat operatives, right? You know, Steve Bannon and Roger Stone, big Democrats.
Democrat Party.
Yeah. Huge. Yeah, nothing to see here. So to demonstrate the level of absurdity in this conversation, I'm going to make you say this because it makes my skin crawl. Here's an exchange between the two.
Wi-Fi radiation does all kinds of bad things, including causing cancer. RFK Jr. said, Wi-Fi radiation causes cancer?
Ooh.
Rogan asked. I'm representing hundreds of people who have cell phone tumours behind the ear. It's always behind the ear you favour with your cell phone, said RFK, who is also a lawyer.
Worth noting.
Not a doctor.
No.
Not a doctor.
No.
You know. He goes on to say, we have the science, so if anybody lets us in front of a jury, it will be over.
Yes.
What will be over? Wi-Fi?
Yeah, see, this is really, really important. And a bit of a
Fucking
detour.
CSIRO should sue that son of a bitch.
Oh, everyone should. But I mean, look, that's the way it works. The courts aren't the answer to this, because the way in which this worked, and this is why the vaccine injury, drug makers have legal immunity when it comes to vaccine injuries. The reason why, compensation programs are put in place by government bodies that will decide the claims based on fact, whereas juries are often guided by emotion and easily swayed by con men like RFK Jr.
True enough.
Well, I mean, you can bring a very convincing snake oil salesman into a courtroom, and you can have a jury convinced that the very sad, sick people at plaintiff's table are victims of vaccines, Wi-Fi, or whatever the fuck you want to make up on the day. Expert testimony in a courtroom is not peer-reviewed. Batshit claims are easily made. Yeah, okay, you can have opposing testimony, but who's more convincing? Let's find out in the day and just roll the fucking dice and let a bunch of chuds in a fucking panel figure it out. Fuck that. So this explains a lot of how RFK Jr. has brought this sort of unique style of influencing idiots into the public domain. He learned how to do it in the courtroom, and now he's doing it on the campaign trail and doing it as an vaccine expert. This one's a fucking no-brainer. Just follow the money trail. He will profit from his claim of putting it in front of a fucking jury. He'll take 30%. Anyway, he goes on to say this.
But cancer's not the worst thing. we got stuff much worse than cancer.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Wi-Fi radiation opens up your blood-brain barrier.
Uh-huh.
Ooh. Now, there's a neurological term if ever I heard one. Mm-hmm. And so all these toxins that are in your body can now go in your brain.
Yep.
Rogan then asked how that worked, to which RFK Jr. replied, now you're going beyond my expertise.
Ooh.
You know, all I know is about the blood-brain
the way toxins
barrier.
work. Good.
Then Jamie, Rogan's producer, Kennedy later said, I think it degrades your mitochondria, just off the top of my head, and it opens your blood-brain barrier. And then Jamie, Rogan's producer and lackey fact-checker, was called upon. Do you see anything online about that? Joe asked.
So apparently Jamie then pulled up the first result on Google, which happens to be an article from the Environmental Health Defense. Wait
a minute, that's RFK's
That's
gig,
right,
John.
that's right. And miraculously it corroborated the claims. It is the only web page that does that.
He would use Wi-Fi, wouldn't he?
Oh, the Wi-Fi was all through the studio, which was very concerned for him.
Oh, yeah, he must have been. Yeah, what's he do? Just plug his ears with chewing gum or something?
Well, I think that's probably next.
Joe then says, we got to get rid of Wi-Fi. Come round to my house and try. I'll knock you out. Because he is an idiot. Well done, Jamie. Good fact check.
Top work.
You're a fucking idiot, Jamie.
Top work. You're not smart.
He probably gets paid about $400,000 a year.
At this point, he's got nothing else. I mean, like, what's he going to do? Work at Super after that? It's just fucking work. He'd be like an Olive Garden server. It's no good. He also claims the Russians are across this whole thing and limiting cell phone usage, especially in kindergartens.
He loves the Russians. Funny, isn't it?
Yeah, surprising, isn't it? Had a look for a source on this, and guess what I found? Children's Health Defense.
Again?
Yeah. Which is funny because I'm actually not that surprised by the idea of limiting cell phone use and Wi-Fi in kindergartens because they're kindergartners. They're children. They shouldn't have laptops and phones. Anyway, so I also looked at the claim that mitochondria is degraded by Wi-Fi and did find something from the Environmental Health Trust that backed up the claim.
Oh, that's Children's Health Defense again, isn't it?
Yeah, so he was quoting himself again. Yeah, so you can verify his claims as long as you go to his own websites. That's real good.
See, he was always right.
He's always right. He's always right. As long as you ask him, it's fine. So Kennedy also continued the lie that vaccines cause autism, which Rogan drank up like a fucking protein shake.
He did. He just didn't even question it.
It's embarrassing. It's fucking embarrassing. And this has been thoroughly debunked, of course, through a study of 50,000 children, which is incredibly expensive and solely conducted to prove that Wakefield's theory, perpetuated by conmen like RFK Jr., is wrong. And it was a complete waste of time and money. It did not have to happen. It was simply a response to this dumb fuckery. Now, following this, a doctor who actually makes vaccines and literally saved kids' lives during his career shared a Vice article critical of Rogan on this episode, to which Rogan, the fucking meathead, responded with this.
Peter, if you claim what RFK Jr. is saying is misinformation, I'm offering you $100,000 to the charity of your choice if you're willing to debate him on my show with no time limit.
Classic.
What does that mean? Just go forever?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's what Rogan does. They just go for fucking hours. He loves the no time limit. Oh, yeah, don't worry. You can just meander forever. Because that's what he does. He just has these meandering conversations with fuckheads. Just hours of it. I can't believe people listen to this shit. That being said...
Most of it's garbage.
So this led to a ridiculous pile-on, which included Steve Kirsch, a wild anti-vaxxer, who was adding to the pile of money offered to this proposed debate. But Kirsch is famous for offering money to people in these ridiculous ideological battles to challenge him somehow, and then never actually paying. He literally offered a woman $100,000 on a plane to remove her mask.
Well, didn't Rogan offer about $600,000 in the end?
No, so he offered $100,000, and then others went on top. Bill Crystal, I believe, like a hedge fund guy. I think he had another thing. A bunch of right-wing chuds. I think Tim Pool offered amount of money as well. Right-wing chuds just did this as basically a pile-on to pressure this guy into doing this ridiculous debate with RFK Jr., which is going to be moderated by a guy who fact-checks things by checking the guy who's making the claims website and then verifies it as true. How can you possibly participate in a forum run by such a moron?
No.
It's a no fucking brainer.
It's amateur hour.
It's
It
insane.
might have cost Spotify $100 million or whatever it is, but it is absolute unchecked garbage coming out of Rogan's mouth. And some of his babble about ancient civilizations drives me nuts. It's just completely no evidence for it. And again, I know we're talking about wannabe, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but we should be doing another episode on just how fucked up Rogan is on ancient civilization.
He's a fucking idiot. He's just easily persuaded by a good story.
Ahistorical pseudoscience, and he just falls for it every time. I mean,
when there was the primatologist, basically he got really excited about this old, like, giant bongo chimp that he got this huge boner for because he was like, oh man, the bongo chimp's crazy. And this woman, like, so I think it was a phone-in type thing, who basically said, I'm a primatologist and that's wrong. And he fucking flipped out at her, screamed at her, claimed that basically because she had a vagina that she thought she had some sort of, credibility in the sphere, not her PhD, of course, and just made a complete cunt of himself. And at that point, you realize who you're dealing with here. Joe Rogan is scum. He's not smart. He masquerades as a smart guy, and he's a smart person for stupid people. And that's basically the end of the story. The guy's a fucking
That's
asshole.
the thing. I wouldn't be as malicious as you are, Joel, but he is a dumb guy.
He's dangerously
stupid. As smart by even dumber people.
Fucking A. And I mean, the guy basically got famous by being on news radio and talking about people punching each other. The guy's a fucking asshole. Anyway, Steve Kirsch offered this woman $100,000 on a plane to remove her mask, and she told him to fuck off. But basically, he's a really creepy, weird guy who made money from, I think, technology stuff. I don't actually care because I really don't like him. He's a weird anti-vaxxer and he fucking sucks. But to top this fucking clown show off, someone of actual consequence who's come up a lot this episode because he's a cooker extraordinaire, Elon fucking Musk, chimes in on the debate and tweeted, Concerning, yeah, exactly. That's all he ever says. He's afraid of a public debate because he knows he's wrong. So there you have it, folks. All it took was Joe Rogan nodding like an idiot to a snake oil salesman lawyer on Spotify to make one of the richest men in the world an anti-vaxxer. This is great. I mean, look, like I said before, your kick in the dick has been delivered. I don't care if you don't have a dick. You do now. You just got kicked in one. But as a side note, just to perpetuate how fucking pathetic this was, Hotez, the man involved in this debate bullying, was approached by a very, very strange man. He's just a really weird guy. His pants were wedged like right up his ass, but like had some guy filming that at his home on a Sunday.
So that's Hotez's home.
Yeah, at Hotez's home.
Just turned up.
Harassing him and demanding that he did this debate. This guy calls himself a journalist. He's not a journalist. He's pathetic. His Twitter handle is I Fight for Kids, which is hilarious because he hassled a father at his home on Father's Day with pants riding up his asshole. You're not fighting for kids. You're fighting for clout. You're a cunt. Anyway, after a flurry of posting about RFK Jr. and Hotez, Pete chimes in and says this.
Think about the reach that Robert Kennedy Jr. is having at the moment and the amount of information that will become mainstream over the coming years. Oh, Pete, you're such a fan.
Fuck you. History will read
fucking little clown.
that you left this world a worse place than you found it. Your societal contribution has been harm. Your liver broth kills children. The only thing that has mitigated this is that, thankfully, some Nazi got into your ear and now nobody gives a shit about your harebrained thoughts because you posted a fucking Sonnenrad meme. You moron. The information that you want to become mainstream in the coming years will cost many lives. And as usual, Pete stands there smiling, grinning like an idiot with blood on his hands. Get the fuck a bin. I just got zero time for a cunt like you.
You have been listening to the Conditional Release Program with your host, Jack the Insider and Joel Hill.
Jack can be found on Twitter on @JackTheInsider and Joel on @CrunchyMoses with a K, where you can ask for me to allow me to follow you. I don't know. I've basically turned Twitter off.
He's not going to be there.
Yeah, I'm
You can walk around.
The lights are out.
Graffiti the room, vandalise the whole place.
But we have set up a Facebook page you can find fairly easily. Just put Conditional Release Program shit posting into the search bar and it comes up pretty easily, or just, Conditional Release Program. We're quite uniquely named, unlike John Anderson's Conversations, which is like clashing with the biggest podcast in the world.
Looking up on that on Google, you're going to get some mixed responses.
Fucking moron.
Look, we have a Patreon to help keep this sustainable. It's bloody time consuming and we still have to pay the rent. Help keep the lights on.
Yeah, for as little as $5 a month, you'll have access to all sorts of bonus content, including a weekly premium episode, which we're going to probably do on Natural News this week, I think. Yeah, let's get some shit.
I think we shall. And finally, all feedback, tips, and death threats should be sent to the Conditional Release Program @gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, even if it's to tell us you have space drugs, but we can't have any.
No, fuck that. Don't tell me that. I want space drugs.
Give me the space drugs.
Give me the space drugs. I'll give you my Patreon link. Just give me the space drugs.
Thanks, listeners. See ya.
See you guys. Bye.
I don't think I ever want to talk to any of those people.
Fuck me, you guys are bastards.